morning. My name is Scott Rutherford, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's Morning Call Express.
观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看今天的直击美股，我是主持人张叔，在纽约向你问好。和前2周的美股市场相比，我们会发现本周的美股在开市的时候都没有明显的方向性。这个主要原因是进入财报季，将会有非常多的财报公布，而在此之前，市场会保有一个比较谨慎的态度。而我们的交易员多次的提醒我们的这个投资人，在财报公布之前，千万别持有该股的一个股票。你可以买入像期权或者说是一些股指期货，但是千万别买有该股的股票。在今天将会有一些非常多的道指成分股发布他们的消息，其中包括了像 Verizon、3M 以及杜邦等这样子的公司，而这也是影响今天一天走势的一个非常重要的原因。另外一方面，美联储在今天是开始了为期2天的货币政策会议，虽然在这次的会议上市场并不期待它会加息，但是如果联储的腔调更鸽派或者说更鹰派一些，都会按照不同的方向来影响我们的银行板块。好的，更多的消息让我们来看一下今天的交易员访谈。Hi Scott, your stocks are set to open narrowly mixed as Dow and also SPX, pointing to different directions. So how do you think about today's market?
Well, I think in the last few days we've seen some divergences. Not everything is having the continuity it had during the first part of a rally, which sometimes take place because people are trying to figure out what sectors can continue to all-time highs, what sectors can play catch-up, and things start to diverge. So if you look here at the S&P cash, you will see that we are still above this 2-year range. Okay, we broke above it, we've stayed above it. So if you look at the bigger picture here, still very healthy. We're just digesting. But the question is it a false sense of security, which a lot of the bears are saying? Okay, here is your upper perch. Okay, the question is if you fall off this perch, your next spot is a 21-day. No active traders want to be involved if that's the case. But we also don't want to move or miss a move to higher levels. So at this point, the 8-day is holding. I would say you could be trading long versus 21.59. As long as we hold above 21.59, chances are this area does hold, and maybe you see a move above highs, which is 21.75. If this area were to fail, you could still be even deemed strong when you hold the 21-day, but that's about 30 handles below and could hurt if you're an active trader.
We'll have a big day for earnings, and Twitter and Apple are set to release its earnings after the closing bell. Right now, the UBS warned in the report that Apple may be fragile due to its dependence on China and also iPhone. So what's your expectation for these two stocks?
Well, Apple, I'm not going to have a position. I'm just hoping that maybe they do beat it up after earnings, but then it reverses tomorrow, meaning that it's been out of play, and hopefully this cycle of weakness, which is what it will be, is behind it as we look towards iPhone 7, and iPhone 7 Plus. So if you look at Apple, it hasn't really meant much to the market, and I don't think it's going to mean much, after the report. Stock's been out of play. It's been below the 200-day this entire time. We'll see what happens after the report, because if it's in line, it's probably going to rally. And here's your resistance at 150, then the 200-day. If they miss and if they don't include iPhone 7 in their guidance, and which will mean that it'll probably look even worse, then we'll have to see whether or not this lower area holds. And as far as Twitter, I'm actually in some calls. The stock has been acting better. It's been out of play and well off highs. Look at the move it's had from the 70s down to 18. So I'm in some calls because risk is premium paid. I have the 19s for Friday. Hopefully between the election and between everything going on out there, their MAUs are up, and between the NFL and the NBA, et cetera, they're positive on their guidance. And if that's the case, I'd be upset to miss a move. So I'm in options, not the stock, because I don't take stock into earnings.
Federal Reserve will start its 2-day monetary policy meeting from today, and it is possible that they may be hawkish this time. If so, will that influence bank sector?
Yeah, the banks reported earnings, and they weren't as bad as everyone thought, and the ranges in the banks are very tight. So let's just go over one or two of them. So in my note today, I talked about, just say, J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan has been tight. We like tight setups. So I said if it could hold this spot, all right, which is just say 63.50, perhaps there's a trade north of 64.20 to bring it back to highs if they're hawkish. You want to look at one more. All these look the same. Look at Bank of America. It's been out of play. It's been battered and bruised if you want to look long term, but it has a short term nice bull flag. So there's a setup there. If Bank of America continues to hold the 8-day, which is right here, maybe there's an extra move to take back the 200-day with some force to bring this back into the mid-14s, closer to 15.
Oil was the winning factor yesterday, but speaking of today, do you think is there any possibility that we can buy from dip?
Well, I think oil went from the low 50s now to the low 40s, and I'd rather be a buyer in the low 40s than a seller. So I'm going to look to see if I could be a buyer of oil in this 41 to 43 area. If you look at, just say the USO as a gauge, okay, which you could also buy the UWTI or short the DWTI, I think into this spot, which was prior support, I'd rather see you be a buyer than a seller, especially if you sold oil when it broke the trend here. You have the opportunity of maybe buying a dip, which I believe, the USO, hopefully if it reclaims 10-11, perhaps that gives you a nice little cash flow buy the dip type of trade.
Okay, that's what we have for today.
Yes, and we'll have more every single morning to try and identify the trends and the cash flow trades so you can continue to create P&L and put them on together.
希望我们的节目对您的投资策略有帮助。感谢您的收看，我们明天再见。